This week, we're going to start a brand new segment that I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy. It's going to be called Checkin' In with the BRN, and we'll talk about some of the things that we find most interesting that's happening in the BRN. And this week, we're going to discuss Bubba breaking down the video of Tfue's dad talking to Tampa Terry, a.k.a. Terrence Cannon. He's the guy that brought us Lieutenant Dan. And I know that some of y'all were with us whenever we did our hurricane show on Hurricane Milton when it was coming in. Record longest show that we've ever had. Bubba does it all the time. It was like 4.5 hours. That's way too long for us. Lieutenant Dan was definitely a highlight that night of that show, and we enjoyed that story just like everybody else was live and at the time. But, you know, apparently there was a little bit more to see. There's always two sides to every story. So this guy, apparently Tfue's dad, came after Bubba, and we're going to hear that clip here in just a second. But we just got to say right off the bat, Bubba was right. We kind of got wrapped up into that whole emotion of it as well, but what an interesting an interesting time. Let's listen to see exactly kind of how this whole thing got started with this dude just hammering on Bubba.
I heard this guy named Bubba the Love Sponge 30 years ago. He was a somebody. And so for clout, he was hammering your guy.
The guy that was talking, that's Tfue's dad. Tfue, probably like, who the hell is Tfue? Like, I think that's where this whole thing needs to begin. Tfue is this very, very popular streamer that's out there. We'll get to more of them later, but he's a popular streamer on Twitch, YouTube, all of that stuff. He has a brother who has this thing, the Juke Squad or something. His other brother's successful, has a good YouTube page, does a lot of things and all of that. The guy that is talking, that is Tfue's dad. And somehow or another, I'm not totally sure. Later on, Bubba explains it a little bit. We'll hear that. But he doesn't go in depth as much as, like, I really want to know, how does he know Tfue's dad? He recognizes his voice. He kind of goes into that a little bit.
I know this guy. Yeah.
Yes. He's like, I know this guy. So somehow or another, they've figured out who this was. And what's happened is they've seen the clip. This guy interviewed the guy who discovered Lieutenant Dan. The guy who first found him.
The younger gentleman right there was the guy
Tampa
who discovered
Terry
Dan.
is the younger one, right?
That's right.
So we got Tampa Terry, who's
yes.
the one that discovered him. Then we have Tfue's dad, and we have Tfue. Those are the three characters involved in this little triangle. And Bubba, the love sponge, which is in the middle of it all. Right?
Why wouldn't he be? I mean, this is exactly where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So they go out, and this guy takes it upon himself because Bubba was critical of, or skeptical, I should say, more so, was skeptical of this whole Lieutenant Dan deal pretty much from the jump, especially, a few days after, really, actually, even before. Like, he was skeptical before the hurricane hit.
He was skeptical about the hurricane. He was skeptical about the whole situation.
That's
Bubba
right.
Windy came in. He started looking at his windy apps and go, guys, it's not going to be as big of a storm as you think it's going to be. It's not. So he was skeptical about the whole situation. He already had red flags going up. So I'm sure this made sense when this guy came along. Like, more BS here, folks. I don't know what it is, but
it's something, yeah.
That's
Bubba
exactly
Windy was
right.
all over it. Bubba Windy was
That's
all
right.
over it.
So that's where this all kind of started. And this guy just comes right out and lays the hammer down that this washed up disc jockey from 30 years back or whatever.
Relevant 30 years ago.
I thought that was
relevant
funny.
30 years ago.
I thought that was funny, but he's still a disc jockey and he's still relevant. I don't understand what that guy's point there. You know what I mean? Bubba's still in the air. I don't really understand that. Not that I'm really, not just taking up for Bubba, but I just thought,
right.
Well, I would have used something different if I was going to talk shit.
Let's hear from Bubba now. Now that you have a clearer picture of who the cast of characters are, let's see, why is Bubba pissed off?
Listen, Tfue's dad, he does do a bunch of stuff all the. Have you seen his rap sheet? He's been arrested no less than 10, 15, 20. He's been arrested more than Gene.
Jumped in to say he was doing this, so I want you to respond to what this bull is.
Okay, first of all, he asked me to make the videos of him. When I first met him, he was like, I want someone to tell my story, and I was like, listen, I do social media, so let me tell your story for you. So that's what I did. I told the story. It blew up. Thought out, like, it went crazy. So yeah, I just did what he.
So he got $100 grand.
100. I don't know. I don't think anyone got 100 grand. He got 50, maybe 40.
So
that's still too much.
Yeah, hold on.
Factor is, all there are haters on the internet. Everyone's hating on this guy. He doesn't have a leg. He's disabled.
So what?
How about empathy? And you don't know jack shit about him, so don't talk about him in a negative way.
Listen, Tfue's dad.
Did he have a stroke?
I don't need to know anything about him. I just pulled up his rap sheet. He's been arrested I don't know how many times. He's a grifter. This guy made him famous.
Was this a setup then?
I don't know what this is.
Of course it is.
Like, I'm asking you,
You think
Seth,
Lieutenant Dan was a plant now to get to? I mean, if if they're saying we don't know Lieutenant Dan, then they clearly know something we don't.
But here's the deal: if we don't know Lieutenant Dan and we have hard evidence of what Lieutenant Dan's past has been, then who really doesn't know Lieutenant Dan? Because the information we got from Lieutenant Dan wasn't hearsay, wasn't our opinion.
I love it when Lasker's in there, number one.
He's been arrested more than Gene.
It's just fantastic.
Oh, my God. Gene threatened to kill Bubba one time. So, yeah, but no. Bubba was right. Why is this dude? I don't understand why this guy's going off so much. Like, why is he so worried about this Lieutenant Dan guy? Like, dude, he ended up being exactly what they said he was.
You got to take into consideration this was a couple 3 weeks ago as well, and maybe before necessarily all of these facts came out.
Yeah.
But still, at the same time, he don't know that dude from Adam. Just like anybody else, the daughter comes out on TikToks like, don't give him money. He doesn't need it. You're wasting your money. He's going to end up killing himself, is what she said. And it is nuts that he raised almost $50,000. I mean, he didn't, just that GoFundMe.
Yeah.
ChatGPT says $39,000, by the way, but it's probably
Still,
around 50.
It's a chunk of change.
Yeah. It's a chunk of change, especially when you didn't have anything. But the other part of the story that you don't hear on that is that since then he has been arrested. He was arrested like a couple weeks ago, if that, for failing to move his boat from a public dock, which had become a health hazard due to improper waste disposal. Yeah. So he also had 2 outstanding warrants.
Oh, yeah.
He ain't
a
poster child.
He set somebody on fire at some point or something, too.
Yeah,
something
and
crazy.
I empathize with him having to deal with being an amputee. Now, that's terrible. We don't know the circumstances of any of that either. The same as this guy saying, you don't know this. Well, we don't know why or what. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But,
I think
it sounds to me like the guy's getting overly worked up for no reason, and Bubba and the crew are just basically laying down public knowledge and all the facts there are. Basically,
all of the facts.
It sounds like Tfue's dad's trying to become relevant because his son's doing something. So now he's trying to get in. So what's he go after? He goes after a big whale, which is Bubba the Love Sponge right there in the Tampa market. You know what I mean?
The newest story.
He knows that was all a work deal. That whole thing was a work. Try to call him non-relevant. He's following the Mike Calta whole, riding those coattails and trying to just bash Bubba and bury Bubba and all that stuff. So you know what? Once again, they can't keep your name out of their mouth, and here you are, some guy trying to become relevant. So it's actually a full 180 deal, Yep.
Let's hear a little bit more about what Bubba has to say to explain this, in my opinion, and in our opinion, clout-seeking jackass. Let's hear it.
Tfue's dad is really a piece of shiz.
Yep.
And his other son, now listen, both of his sons are very, very successful content providers. I mean, Tfue makes millions of dollars. He's one of the very few that he's one of Twitch's big big time stars where they write, $5 and $10 million a year checks to keep him on Twitch. I know that to be a fact. And then his brother is the Juke Squad on YouTube, and I think they have 8, 9, 10 million subscribers. So both of his sons have done very well with regards to the digital world. I don't know why he's calling me out.
Is the dad a leech, like a hanger-oner?
Well, I mean, I think his dad, kind of. Why don't you just live off your, I don't think that you have to.
You think the dad's in content development now? Like he's okay.
Yes. I think the dad's trying to get a rub where he should just be the dad and the kids are, scraping him off, a few $100,000 a year to be the dad. I don't think you got to call me out when at the end of the day, man, every person that has been told the Lieutenant Dan situation thinks the guy's a meth out tweaker that bamboozled everybody. Maybe he didn't mean to per se, but Tampa Terry or whatever this guy's name is, he certainly exploited him for the first time in his 15-second deal that built Lieutenant Dan up to what he was, that got him $50,000, supposedly a $1 million deal with Kick and said until he said the N-word. Like, I'm not clout chasing. You don't see me clout chasing because of my comments about Lieutenant Dan. I made fun of our mayor who said that they had apprehended him and put him in a shelter.
What you did.
Bubba's like, hell, I went after the mayor.
Yes, he did. Yes. He went after the mayor hard.
I don't think it's wise to come after Bubba especially when Bubba has
He's got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. Everybody, he just wins with all this. Like Blasey said, every time they come out of somebody else's mouth, it just helps Bubba. And he sits back and watch and laugh because he don't give a crap. He don't care. He don't give a shizzle or whatever he just said. I thought that was funny. The one time he chose to watch his language was to clean that word up.
He kept that one clean.
All the crap he says, that's the word he decides to clean up.
Yeah, that's that Hogan. That's that Hogan, like Snoop Dogg type talk,
Yeah.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Yeah. Man, if you listen to some of that stuff, Bubba's put some archived conversations and stuff with. Well, it was the Eric Bischoff video. I don't know if you've had a chance to see that yet, JR. I watched the whole dang thing. Like the whole thing's 54 minutes or whatever. There's a short, or maybe it wasn't that long, but there's a shorter version of it as well. I watched it all.
The shorter version.
Eric Bischoff talking about Bubba, him going in the studio.
Yeah, kind of put him over.
Doing his gimmicks and all every morning, drinking his Tito's and eating his pills and then going into the studio and how Bubba should be ashamed,
Yeah. But he kind of, at the same time, he put him over in a sense because Bubba was huge and he had a wrestling angle that he wanted to play, all that stuff. But all that to say is that this clout-chasing jackass Tfue's dad realizes what is happening here and that there's still a little bit of noise, a little bit of rumbling over about Lieutenant Dan. Let's get one last shot at a little clout here. Bubba's going to jump on it. In a sense, I think that it was a cast to Bubba.
It was.
Bam, he caught him.
Yeah.
But, Bubba's just like my buddy Rack. He answers. Like, he don't care what you say. If you ask him a question, he's going to answer. You may not like it. You got to live with it.
Yeah, that's what my first thought was, why is Bubba even entertain these knuckleheads? Why does he even give them 2 seconds on his show? But what else does he got to do? He don't care. That's what I'm saying. He don't care. He's like, look at these idiots. I think Bubba's people watching. Bubba's just in a big tall chair people watching, and he calls it how he sees it. And some people just don't like it. And, each to their own, but it's entertaining, no doubt. I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Totally entertaining. It's totally entertaining. And to kind of to jump back to Tfue for a second, I mean, that dude, he ain't no angel himself. He's been banned multiple times from Twitch. He's been, they kicked him out. Epic Games suspended him because he was, and then totally took his account away because he violated the terms of service. He was buying and selling accounts, which you can't do, which was helping him to, get skins and stuff like that. So, I mean, controversy also seems to surround this guy a little bit too. I know nothing about him. Apparently a great gamer. Hadn't had enough time to even dive in. Frankly, don't think I want to. It doesn't sound like, he sounds like a waste of my time. But there you go. The more you know.
It sounds like he's done pretty well though. So whatever his whole gimmick's working really well. He's making millions of dollars. So
yeah, good for him. Whatever. Yeah. I never heard of him. I hope I never do. I hope I never see it. He needs to get a job, kid. Give me a break.
That's right.
Don't try that at home, kids. It don't usually work.
It never works. It never works. So that concludes our first part. Our first time doing this. This is going to be something we're going to do pretty much every week
with the BRN.